Today's episode of the Fit for Fortune podcast is a Vibecast, where I would like you all to meet my head of online coaching at Catalyst, the wunderkind, the chosen one, the one and only, Arsia Philippin. He earned all these titles by being insanely knowledgeable and intelligent, especially if you take into account his young age. If I'm not mistaken, he's barely over 12 years old. Kidding, he's actually soon turning the ripe old age of 21, but he still does look 12. And by the time he will be my age, 30, he will have single-handedly dominated our industry because of his head start, his skills, the insane work he puts in, and obviously the invaluable coaching and education he receives from yours truly. Arsia has been wildly successful at Catalyst, which is kind of self-explanatory, otherwise I would have kicked his butt. And what allowed him to be so successful is that he's this beautiful combination of all the skills that can be taught: training, nutrition, communication, and so on, combined with the skills that cannot be taught, such as a genuine, deep caring for his clients, which I think is the number one indicator of a truly outstanding coach, a relentless work ethic, critical thinking, reading between the lines, patience, empathy, and an incredible talent to bond with people. Honestly, with this set of skills, if God didn't burden him with some heavy ADHD, it would be hard to believe that someone as perfect as him can even exist. Hiring him has been one of, if not the best decision of my life that I am so proud of. Throughout the last 1.5 years, he's become one of my very, very best friends, which I'm unsure how I feel about actually. Being such close friends with a 20-year-old occasionally makes me wonder whether I'm experiencing some heavy cognitive decline. But then I remind myself that he's a beautiful old soul, extremely mature, wise way beyond his years, and I'm being a bit generous here, but let's say nearly as intelligent as I am. Jokes aside, he's been such a massive pillar in my personal life as well as in the business that I truly feel, even though I am the boss and the much older one, that our relationship is honestly so pure and mutually beneficial and makes us both develop in the exact areas that we both need to make improvements in, which, by the way, does raise some concerning thoughts about his position and the leverage he has to negotiate a higher salary. I could genuinely go on with this introduction for so much longer and tell you more about why Arsia is one of the greatest humans I've ever met, how he changed my life numerous times by helping me grow the company, get in the best shape of my life, become more easygoing, how he instilled some patience in me and helped me repair a broken heart. But instead, I would like you to get to know his story from himself. So I'm just going to go into the thick of it straight away. You're extremely in shape now and spent 2024 almost entirely with a single-digit body fat percentage. I know that you were actually super chubby as a kid. For the audience, it's not like baby fluff, but like proper chubby fat. How did that happen?
Well, first of all, David, thank you so much for the introduction. Yeah, it honestly means a lot. And I know that you meant what you said, which means even more. But to answer your question, I started off from a great standpoint in terms of body fat. So it was pretty much just, we did our first cut, basically finished a few days before Christmas. So I just had to maintain a little bit throughout Christmas, which was pretty easy, given the type of diet we did, which is what we do for all our clients. But it was the first time I was introduced to it, which made everything a lot easier. And yeah, from there, maintained for a month until I got with a coach called Coach by Christian, who was your previous coach as well. Very nice guy. And then we basically just bulked for 4 or 5 months. And then, I just went on vacation and decided I was going to maintain for the rest of that summer. And how I did that was pretty easy. Thanks to you, I realized that most of the calories from foods, especially when you eat out a lot, like on vacation or when you're not at home, are going to be from fats. So during the meals I could control, I basically just limited fats and carbs just to help around with total calories. And then I would basically save them all up for dinner. And then that's how I basically maintained pretty low body fat percentage throughout the summer. And it was pretty easy, I think. So yeah, it's basically just knowledge and knowing what to cut out, when to make compromises, while still having fun and still enjoying life.
Pre us working together, pre getting lean, when you were a kid, how did you get so chubby?
I ate a lot of food. So it wasn't necessarily, I didn't eat too much junk. It was never like chocolate or Nutella or like candies or stuff like that. But it was just, I ate literally quite a lot of food. I had a big appetite. I'd always go for like second servings. I come from an Iranian family, so a lot of the stuff is rice, stews, grills, stuff like that. And that seems okay at a surface level, but a lot of it would have a lot of oil. And like typical mistakes people do when they try to diet, or that they don't realize when they do try to diet, is that a lot of the food or the calories is going to come from stuff that you can't really see and that you don't realize is keeping you fat or making you fat. So it's just basically overeating on some pretty high calorie stuff. I always did exercise quite a lot, actually. I played tennis throughout my whole life. I played football here and there, basketball. I did a lot of that stuff while growing up. I also had two PTs, one earlier on and one a bit later when I got lean for the first time, back in 2020/2021. So it wasn't the lack of activity, it's just that I really ate a lot. And then at school, same thing. I would mostly order in, especially throughout middle and high school, and it wasn't always the best food either. So yeah, I was just eating quite a lot and I didn't really care about my nutrition that much. And yeah, I think that's about it.
So pre 2021, were you chubby your entire life? Like, are you someone that considers yourself as like a chubby kid, and do you remember yourself like that the whole time?
Yeah, yeah, definitely from 6 or 7 onwards, all the way up until I was about 16, 17, more or less. I was always a pretty chubby kid, overweight and such. So yeah, I would have considered myself chubby for most of my life, and it's only in the recent few years where I haven't. Uh, but yeah, hope that answers your question.
Do you think people, like, why is it that some people develop that, like that they eat, as you said, not even bad food, it's just more sort of nicer but higher quality food? Like, why did you end up developing that, you think? And why didn't I? For example, I hated food my entire life. I'm asking because when you talk about, for example, alcoholism, which is a very different topic, alcoholics perceive alcohol differently. It just hits them differently. So like most people, when they have their first drinks, it's not as significant of an experience as it is for alcoholics, for example. So do you think it's like similar with food as well?
I think for myself, so my family and I never really ate together as a family. We always had the only time we'd have dinner all together or something like that was when we had like family over or something like that. I mean, sometimes I'd eat with my mom, sometimes I'd eat with my dad, sometimes, rarely, I'd eat with my sister, or a combination of that. But we would never all sit down together at a table and eat together. So I think it's also a combination of I was just pretty hungry, and my grandma and my mom, they always loved it when I ate because it meant that the food was good, etc., etc. And also, I was taught to like never leave food on the plate, so I had to finish every plate I had. I didn't have to, but it's something that stuck to me throughout my childhood. And also, there was just an abundance of it, right? So since no one ate at the same time, you could basically just eat however much as you want. And since I was just pretty hungry and the food was good, I just ate a lot.
So was it like multiple larger meals that you had, or was it constant meals that just like flowed into each other?
Usually I'd skip breakfast just because I woke up late and I was never hungry in the morning. I would go to school, eat a pretty large meal for lunch. Then I'd get home, eat another small meal after school around 4 or 5, and then eat dinner around 8. Yeah, that's basically it. No, I didn't really snack too much in between meals. Just the meals themselves were pretty big. And I'm pretty short. I didn't have muscle at the time, normal, because I was like 12 or 13. But yeah, all that food was going to go somewhere and it went to fat.
Yeah, exactly. That's just the reality of it, that smaller framed people will always have a harder time sort of staying in shape because they just don't have as much, like, as high a maintenance.
Mm-hmm. They have less calories to play around with.
And then that's interesting that you said having to finish everything on the plate. We obviously have clients like that are like, oh my God, it cannot go to waste. But if you look at the definition of waste, I think it's something like to spend recklessly or to no use. And if you're someone that doesn't want to have waste doesn't want to waste food, and then instead you pay us to help you get rid of body fat, then it gets wasted anyway, because now you're wasting money, as well as technically you did eat it to no use, which is the definition of waste. Anyway, circling back to you being from an Iranian family, what's up with the annoyingly perfect American accent? Doesn't add up.
Right? It's kind of ironic. No, it's just the accent comes from when I was pretty young. My mom, we had nannies. They were always American, so accent kind of picked up there. Whenever I first started learning English, I always had people with American accents when I did grow up. So I went to kindergarten, so that's basically when you start school at like 3, and it was a bilingual school. But most of the kids there were not French bilingual, but they were like internationals from America, Canada, or wherever that would go to the school. So basically all my friends and all the people I was surrounded by were American or had an American accent. And that's basically where I picked it up. I mean, I'm very grateful and lucky to have had parents who introduced me to languages, especially English, super useful language, that young. So basically I just picked up the accent there and it kind of never left. Even living about 3.5, 4 years in the UK now, I don't think I've picked up a single word that I say with a British accent.
Fortunately.
Yeah, except YouTube.
Tuesday, innit?
Tuesday.
Okay, but like originally you're from France, right?
Yeah, I was born in Paris. I lived there 17 years. My dad was French, is French. He was born right next to Paris in one of the suburbs. He moved around quite a bit because his father was in the military, so he went to Algeria, I think, and then moved around a little bit in France as well. But he basically, since he was 16 or 17, when he first started working, he stayed in Paris his whole life. So, I mean, yeah, my dad is basically from Paris. And then my mom, she probably left Iran in 85, somewhere around that, around the revolution, or a little bit after. Her parents sent her there because they didn't want her to keep living in Iran, considering the political situation there at the time. So she basically moved there, not even knowing French or English or anything like that, and started building her life there. And then her 2 brothers joined her about 2 years after. So yeah, I'm definitely 100% French. Yeah, I've been to Iran twice when I was very young, about 9, 8, 11, something like that. I went there twice. But yeah, I would definitely consider myself more so French than Iranian.
Yeah, Arsia is so French that he takes it to the next level, and he doesn't like French people. Okay, so you're 3 years old, in kindergarten, already fluent in like 3 languages, and then what? You go to school, and then eventually you end up in the UK studying.
Well, to be completely honest, I was kind of a dipshit all the way up until I was about 16.
Beautiful.
So, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know what I was going to do in life. I had no idea.
He's like, I didn't know what I was going to do in life until I turned 16. Yeah, for most people, that's the situation until they're like 30, 40 and beyond. If you don't know what you're going to do for your life, by the time you're 16, you're a dipshit.
Okay, that's not what I meant. What I meant is that I didn't even think of anything like university or what I liked with regards to academia or anything like that, all the way up until I actually had to. I played video games. I did a little bit of sports. I hung out with my friends. I did.
What is sports?
Sports, sorry.
Oh, sports. I thought it said sports. I'm like, that's some French thing.
No, I played a lot of video games. Actually, yeah, that was my thing from like 8 years old to 16. And then I kind of stopped just because I moved and my interest changed. But yeah, I used to play a lot of video games. Basically, really didn't do much of my days. At school, I always kind of did the bare minimum. And it wasn't until it got serious with having to apply at university and everything like that that I started taking things a little bit more seriously. But I didn't even have like the foresight to, 9th, 11th, and until 12th grade when I realized, this is coming really soon. I have to start like making an effort. And this is what I mean by being a dipshit. Like a lot of the people I know were already thinking about their universities and what they wanted to do earlier than I did. So,
Did you get into the university you wanted to?
yeah, second choice.
All I'm hearing is you were more efficient. Instead of spending 3 years of studying, getting into that uni, you just spent one. What was
Yeah,
your
it was
first choice,
okay.
by the way?
UCL. But, so in the UK, they have like a personal statement system where you have to write like a personal statement, 1 page, just to say why you want to go and do this
Okay.
certain degree or something. What are your passions? What are your hobbies? A lot of just talk. And the thing I applied for at UCL had very little to do with whatever I wrote in my personal statement. Just because they didn't have the course I wanted to do, I still wanted to try to apply there just to see if I would get in. I did not because the personal statement had absolutely nothing to do with the degree. I think the degree was
Right.
economics with Eastern European studies, and my personal statement was about political economy. So, and I didn't say
Right.
one thing about Eastern Europe, so that was not a surprise. But my second choice was King's, and I did get into political economy there. So that was nice.
What did you want to study about Eastern Europe?
Nothing really. I just wanted to get in for the econ part, but pure economics would have been too difficult, I think, to get in.
Right. Just for the listener, even though we were both dipshits with Arsia, somehow we both actually ended up in economics, and then we both actually got our degree as well. So you got into political economics, and you finished that when you were, I think, like 19, which I need to have this conversation
20.
recorded now because you finished when you were 20.
Yeah, I just turned 20.
Because I know that I started uni when I was 19, I think, and you finished by 20. How?
I skipped a class in high school, which made me start a year early. And I know that you guys in Hungary, usually you would get into university at 18. I got in at 17. And you got to university at 19. So that gives us like a 2-year difference. So it would make sense that I would graduate just 1 year after you started, especially since in the UK it's only 3 years a degree. It's not like in America or in other countries where sometimes it's 4.
How do you skip a class?
Basically, what happened is I got enough credits the year before. We had finished early, or I had finished most of my classes early. So I spent the extra months I had just working on the next year stuff. And they basically let me skip that next year and straight into the other one. But yeah,
How
those
old were
were
you then?
15.
So that's you being what you call dipshit, but having good enough grades to skip an entire year. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I guess.
So you finish uni, and then what were your prospects then? What was the plan, and how did your life go so wrong that you ended up working for me instead?
Well, it went very wrong. No, it's just that I did an internship in 2022. Basically, I did an internship in this asset management company, and I just got to see how people worked after university there. And it really, didn't seem that interesting or passioning. Basically seemed like you worked a lot for like 5, 6, 7 years. Basically very little social life. You worked like a dog until to reap some rewards a little bit later. And just the job did not interest me that much. Yeah, from there I told myself, I was probably just going to go into the family business, real estate maybe, but not out of passion, but just because it seemed easy, right? With the fact that you're already getting in, because my family was already doing that. But yeah, I think the plan before that was to go into finance, like basically everyone else my age with a degree in politics or econ or something similar like that, or business management or something like that. Then when I realized that I really didn't like it, I thought I was just going to follow the footsteps of my mom, who's the one who does real estate. But yeah, this came up with this opportunity, so I kind of took it just to see where it would go. And since then, it's been going really well. I also know that if you're good enough at something, regardless of the industry, you're going to make pretty good money. And I'm not the type of person that wants to make 2 million a year or something like that, or a million a year, or even like 500,000 a year. It's not really the thing that motivates me in life to make more and more money each year. I just want to be pretty comfortable, be able to live the life I want. And luckily, I'm not that much of a materialistic person, so I don't need hundreds of thousands or millions to be pretty fulfilled. I mean, the job itself is fulfilling enough, right? You help people achieve their dreams, live longer so that they can play with their children and such. I mean, I think it was a pretty good decision. I mean, I'm happy. Other people are happy as well. Yeah, I think the most important part of it is that it's just something that I want to do and that I'm pretty good at, and that I wake up every morning and that I'm kind of like grateful for and I'm excited to do.
You know that Venn diagram, which is like one circle is stuff that you like, another circle is stuff that you're good at, and the third one is stuff that you can make money off of. And obviously you want to aim for the middle, right? I think you are there with this job. And I would also say that you're super social, right? So that's a nice benefit of the whole job for you, I think.
I'm really lucky to be in that position because I know a lot of people who are going to go the finance route and like it, but just see it as a means to an end, right? And I don't really see this as a means to an end. I see this as, I don't know, like a purpose, something that makes you happy every day.
Get the job that you like doing and you will never work a day in your life. We'll get you busy enough that you will hate it, okay?
Okay, yeah. Well, let's do that. I can't wait. You know, that's something my dad always told me. The thing you just said.
What?
Get a job that you like and it won't feel like work. Because he also loved his job.
Really? But like to that extent?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I mean, because what he did was basically manage people. And he was always really good with people. And he liked the people he worked with. He liked the company he worked with. So I think so, yeah.
That's interesting to hear it from someone that is like already done with their careers. Because usually people that say this, I don't know. I don't think they actually have enough work experience, because then they would realize that every job is kind of a job and it can always get to that point that you, even if you love it, you hate it a little bit.
I mean, I'd have to ask him, but I mean, you wouldn't stay there for 27 years if you didn't really like it. No matter how good the money is, you know.
So when you got in shape, 2022, you said?
Which
2020.
one? Before I met you?
The first one. Very first time, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it something that you desired? Or was it something that was like pushed upon you? Or like how did you go from video games, being chubby, and definitely not eating Nutella like you said, to being in shape?
Are you calling me out 5 years later?
No, but you were like, no, I ate good foods, and it was not like candies or Nutella, and the Nutella was so specific. I'm like,
Oh, we did have like a 1 kilo Nutella tub. You know the one? Let me finish. You know the type that people get for like big shops or like restaurants? We had that. We never finished it. So that tells you that much. Rookies.
Beginners.
All of us. What was the question? So how did it happen? There's a multiple factors. So the first one was a lockdown kind of started. It was a little bit, it was during lockdown. Yeah. Where I lost most of the weight. And also the summer of 2020. I kind of did it like the worst way possible. What happened is that I would play video games until like 4 or 5 a.m. or something. I would go to bed. I would wake up at 3. I wouldn't really eat. Then I would eat like dinner at like 9 or 10. And that would be the only meal I ate for the day.
Oh my God.
I'm dead serious. And sometimes it was not even a meal. Sometimes it was late. It was like midnight and I still hadn't eaten for the day. And I would just go take some bread, put some olive oil somewhere, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and just eat that and go play more video games. It was pretty bad.
So 0 to 1 meal per day and 0 activity.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thanks. And from there, I lost a little bit of weight and I kind of liked it. So I thought I'd keep going. And obviously at that age, one of the
Like this,
biggest
why?
motivators. Oh no, I was getting less chubby. Oh, also I was starting to get
But
attention from girls when I started losing a little bit more
in
weight
lockdown.
after
Okay.
December 2020, something like that. And then I don't exactly remember how. I remember really getting abs for the first time when I went on vacation. I don't even remember why. I went on vacation with some friends, came back, I was basically shredded. I don't know, it just felt nice and to feel good about yourself and being able to take your shirt off and walk in the street without really feeling insecure. Well, after when I got back into school and couldn't wake up at like 4 a.m. or go to sleep at 5 a.m. anymore, it was pretty simple. I mean, breakfast, I would basically do eggs and maybe a protein shake and a banana. And that wasn't on any kind of diet or anything. It's just, I just kind of started eating this way. Then lunch would usually be Chipotle. I don't exactly know why. Maybe I'd seen some reel or something by some fitness influencer about it, and I just started eating Chipotle. It would basically be maybe beans, a
Beautiful.
little bit of rice. Yeah, yeah, the good old days when I could spend $20 on lunch without caring about it. Uh, yeah, and the veg and barbacoa and stuff like that, and then dinner would just be whatever my family made, but it would be it would be less amount of food, and I'd prioritize protein a bit more. And that was basically it. And for snacks, I would basically eat fruit.
I interrupted you, but you were saying the biggest motivator back then was
Girls, plain and vain.
for the unfortunate listener that cannot see Arsia. He's like extremely good looking, but then as soon as he puts a little weight on, it's basically going like 95% of it onto his face. Still extremely good looking, but just like way more good looking when he's a little bit leaner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I stayed lean throughout the whole summer.
What are your personal goals for the next, let's say, 5 years?
I like to move out of London.
Don't we all?
I'm not sure where. Yeah, tell me about it. We talk about this every day. Just wake up cloudy. It was actually pretty nice this morning, but
Don't worry, it won't last.
makes me feel good about waking up again tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm sitting in New York at the moment, and it's so sunny. Every day is sunny. I know I can't technically see the sky from all the buildings, but I know above it, it is sunny. And it's like, I looked at the data. I looked at the data in the UK, or in London actually, yearly sunshine hours is 1,500 per year. In New York, it's 2,200, 50% more. That's huge. Anyway, go on. So you want to move out of London?
I don't exactly know where. I'd like to move to the US, but that's really difficult considering their visa laws there. But ideally, somewhere in the sunshine. And so Spain, Portugal, Greece. I mean, I would kind of move wherever the wind takes me, you know? Regarding the job, same thing. Same thing. Do some in person as well, because I feel like I would enjoy that. The thing is, I feel like I would enjoy it once I get really good at it.
You would be very good at it very soon.
Yeah. Just have to get through that 1 or 2 months or 3, I don't know, however long it is, where you're not that good, and then from there, that's where it gets fun. But yeah, probably do some in person. I don't know. I'd like to be somewhere around my friends, wherever that is. Maybe around my family as well. But honestly, I don't really know. For now, I'm just taking every challenge at the time. So just really trying to get good at the online part, and then worry about in person when that becomes a reality as well. And then from there, that'll kind of decide where I move, to be honest.
You are very good at the online.
Thank you. Can always be better.
And then what about your physique, bodybuilding, fitness, high rocks marathon?
I would like to have some more muscle. I would like to have a little bit more muscle. I'm pretty happy with my capacities in terms of fitness. I mean, I'm pretty good at cardio. I have no real interest in running because I want my knees to be okay when I'm old. I'm happy with the bike that I have just right here. And yeah, some other maybe fitness related stuff I'd like to do. Depending on where I live, I always really like cycling, like road cycling. So that's something I really like to get. Maybe do some long distance races and such. Also like swimming, but with regards to my physique, uh, yeah, I kind of want to just continue to build muscle. I'm not really focused on the objective. I kind of like the process. So wherever the process leads me, I'll be pretty happy with. But I just want to keep training, keep finding not new, but keep perfecting my training, my nutrition, and then getting better at it all. Then applying that knowledge to my clients.
So you went from chubby, proper fat, no muscle, to no fat, no muscle, and now to having no fat, having some muscle, not like a ton yet, but that's just an age thing, you know? Like if you keep doing what you're doing for a longer time, by the time you're my age, you will be literally twice my size in terms of muscle mass. So did your life change in between these different stages? And if yes, how?
Yeah, the first time I got lean, it was a pretty easy process. Uh, I didn't really know much about nutrition. I just kind of prioritized protein, limited
We kind of
carbs.
got that from your diet when you said that you were just having your first meal at 9 p.m. and that was also your last meal. We kind of got the idea that you didn't have an idea on nutrition.
hmm But that was like the first maybe five. I mean, I was what 68 at the time. First time I kind of throughout lockdown, I got down to like 60, 62. And then when I got properly, not properly lean, but like pretty lean, I was around 55, 56. But going from that like 60 to 55, 56 is, yeah, when I would do the Chipotle at lunch, and then on vacation, I would basically just try to keep it protein, fruit for snacks, and stuff like that. But then it kind of I got into calorie counting, and it got a tiny bit obsessive. Uh, and then you hired me, and we did a diet your way, and that kind of changed the way I saw things, especially from a dieting perspective. The way we do our diets with the serving sizes and such. So I feel like that somewhat changed my life in a way or another. Kind of like leaving my fitness pal to the side because that's something that didn't. I mean, it worked obviously, but it was kind of like taking up too much time of the day. Try to think what my next meal would be, to try to track everything, stuff like that. But also throughout it, I mean, if we're talking more like personal development, throughout those first 2 or 3 years, right? So those were where I got lean for the first time and somewhat maintained it. That was the first time I really got attention from girls. So that made a link in my brain where it kind of associated that with being lean, uh, which is not a great thing. And then a few months ago, or like a little bit more than a year ago, a little bit less, I kind of realized that. So that's in one way. And I realized that these people don't really care. All the pressure you put on yourself to be lean or to stay lean or stuff like that is mostly in your own head. And obviously, if you have bodybuilding goals or something like that, I mean, these are understandable, but I don't really. I don't care to be a competitor. So, yeah, I just kind of realized that all these pressures that you put on yourself to stay lean are, again, what I just said. You put them on yourself. No one really cares how lean you are. I mean, as long as you're not fat and
Exactly.
unhealthy or something, and you're not like obese. Uh, yeah, no one really cares. It doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal.
We're not talking about a body fat percentage where you're like unhealthy. We're literally talking about whether someone's like 9% body fat versus 13, 14.
hmm Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of my friends have seen me at like what, 18, and then have seen me at like 12, and they can't even tell the difference. And these are just regular people. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's actually
obviously, you and
tragic.
I would be able to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hurts a little. Uh, but you and I would be able to see the difference, right? But that's because we're in this industry. But regular people just seem to not care. Uh, it's not
Not
that
only not
important.
care, you can get to that level where they actually prefer you having a little bit more body fat. Like you get to probably 12, maybe 11%,
And it
and
gets
people start complaining that you
scary.
just look yeah, that you look too thin, your face is sunken in, that you're too shredded, which is, for us, it's not a thing, right? But for like normal people, too shredded is a possibility.
Yeah, that happened to me when I dieted really hard a few months back. I mean, we got to what, 9% body fat?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people were telling me I just looked really skinny and frail, and like it was not a good look. But to us, right, it's difficult to explain to someone because on one end, you can get their perspective that it's not pretty at all. It doesn't really look that good. It's a lot of effort. I mean, I remember I was doing 70 minutes of cardio, pretty low calories, between 1.2 and 1.5K, depending on whether I trained and stuff like that.
70 minutes of cardio over what time frame?
A day.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a point where we did that, and then we reduced it to 55.
But you were doing very little to no steps, right?
When I was doing 70, I was doing 6 to 7 on average. And then when I got back to London, we were doing 55, but an average of 10K steps. And
Right,
looking back at it, dude, my whole life revolved around that. It was like that and my work and stuff like that. I didn't really do anything social like that and all. But yeah, to go back, I mean, I remember a lot of people telling me, I mean, you need to gain a little bit more weight. You just look really skinny and it's really scary. And I kind of understand it now. I mean, I look back at some of the photos and yeah, that's when I realized I needed more muscle before I ever do this again. Getting that lean. I don't know what was the first question, how we got all the way to that.
A lot of people don't realize that you can put in a decent amount of work that's not crazy and get to this like nice and comfortable level of body fat, anywhere between 12 to 16%, wherever your body wants to like happily maintain. And then if you want to work past that, you actually have to start putting in a lot more work. So I have this client, she's super in shape. But she wants to be even more in shape. She needs to lose like 2-3 kilos, and she always talks about it. But she has like a really busy life, kids, just like normal mom in London with children to drive around kind of life, plus her own business. And I always tell her that, unfortunately, for her to take it to the next level, she needs to just like put next level effort in, because right now she can sustain a very good body, very healthy body fat percentage with putting in just normal amounts of effort. But in order to get to what you were saying as well, the 9% body fat for guys, or just like the next level for girls as well, you need to start putting this disproportionate amount of work in. And it's not as easy to maintain either. That's why you were having to do 70 minutes of cardio as well.
Yeah, I remember we started at around 55.5 kilos maybe. And in about 12 weeks, almost, we got down to a little bit less than 12, 10, 11 weeks. We got down to 51.5.
Yeah, these numbers are actually frightening.
Yeah, I mean, I was already pretty light to start with, and I was already pretty lean. But just to get down to very, very lean, it took a full on. I mean, I was already, maybe 14% body fat. Just to get down to like 9 or 10, it took a full 10 weeks of a lot of dedication and a lot of discipline, cardio, and really a lot of work. So I think for most people, it's just not worth it, to be honest. Getting down to like 9 or 8 or 10% body fat, it's just not worth it. People will look amazing at 12. Most people you see in the street aren't nowhere near that and don't look nearly as good as that. So it's impressive to everyone, and it's maintainable, which is the most important thing of them all, right? It's not just about getting super duper lean and then not being able to sustain that. It's about getting somewhere where you can sustain it, look good, feel good, and keep living life from there.
And this is the other thing that a lot of people, I think, don't realize, is that if you are a little bit smaller framed, or you want to be lean and you don't have as much muscle, you will be light. Like if you're not super heavy and then you remove all the fat, you will be lighter. You will be lighter without fat than with fat. And I think a lot of people get hung up over that and don't want to get like as light. Whereas really, if they want to be leaner, it needs to be lighter as well, unless they build some muscle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You were saying that before we met and started working together, you got a little bit obsessive, is the word that you used with your nutrition. Can you tell me about that and how you felt?
I mean, you'd have a calorie goal and you'd have to hit it. And I think one thing that's important for me, especially when I'm maintaining or something, when I'm not dieting or something, is really to just listen to my hunger cues and not eat when I'm full or something. And then counting calories, what that did to me was that I had like a number to reach. So I would just do that regardless of what that meant physiologically for me, regardless of if I was still hungry or if wasn't hungry or anything like that. I kind of just ate up until that goal. And also, like, I don't know, I would use all these tricks and tips just to try to do some low calorie stuff or whatever instead of just focusing on normal whole foods that'll keep me satiated for longer, etc. Yeah, and I would just like always try to look for recipes for new stuff to do, for new low calorie tricks and just shit like that in general. That can work for some people, but just yeah, it just took it to a whole different level, and it was a little bit too much time invested for no reason. Uh, Especially since nutrition is just pretty simple, to be honest. It doesn't have to be that complicated to me. And I know that MyFitnessPal can work very well for a lot of people, right? But it just seems that it kind of got obsessive for me. As in, maybe I wanted to make it perfect. Maybe I wanted to maximize uh, all the calories I had or didn't have. And yeah, it always led to like this cycle of, okay, I'm going to cut down. Then it may be like a week later, I would eat off diet or something. And then I would rethink it, either get back on diet or be like, okay, let's maintain or blah, blah, and then change it again a week after that, depending on how I felt. That's also because I didn't have external accountability. And I didn't really know what I was doing. So that led me to kind of like basically spin my wheels for almost 2 years. I barely put muscle on, maybe 2 or 3 years even. Uh, and yeah, and then I finally got on it, learned that consistency was kind of key and be able to stick to something long term is how you're going to really see some result. Uh, and that's when it got a little bit more serious. So that was about a year and a half ago, maybe October 2023.
I'm not sure I understand how you mean that putting a lot of time into finding different low calorie options became an issue. Was it just the time investment of it or what?
Yeah, and also like it would take some time, and like I'd be out and I'd be like, oh shit, what can I fit in for dinner tonight? And that would take like maybe 20 minutes of my time trying to find something that I could eat for dinner or something, or like eat something as stupid as eating a meal out. I'd be like, oh, how am I going to track this into MyFitnessPal? Was it this? Was it that? Was it this amount of calories? Stupid shit that I realized now was such a waste of time and mental energy. And nowadays, when that does happen, I don't care to try to track it at all. And since I know how nutrition works, it's not a daily thing, it's a weekly thing. Either that day, I can cut out a little bit of fats, a little bit of food out throughout the day to make up for that meal, then eat it and not really care about it, not feel guilty about it at all, and just go on with my day. Whereas before this, I would eat a meal out, I would track it, and then I would see what I have left for the day. And if I saw that I didn't have that much left, I'd be disappointed. It would kind of like annoy me, make my day slightly worse, or something like that. It's just like stupid mental stuff like that that I'm glad to be kind of out of.
Yeah, so technically nutrition is not a daily thing like you said, but it's not even a weekly thing. It's like a life thing. So this is very common. Everything that you're saying here is very common with all our clients, right? Like they are the same where they're like, oh my God, how am I going to track my meal out? But in reality, what you do around the meal out and then just trying to pick roughly in line with your requirements while you're having the meal out is more important than being able to actually track it. But what most people do is, oh, if I can't track it, then I will just eat everything.
Yeah.
And then I also think that you were saying you were so obsessive with like hitting the numbers on the dot that you were like weighing out like quarter of an almond to hit your fats and stuff.
Oh, I don't remember saying that exactly, but I was very obsessive as if I would. This is a great example. Thank you for reminding me. Let's say I had 2,000 calories for the day. I'd be the end of the night, 1950. I wouldn't go to bed, even if I was not hungry. I'd be like, oh, I have 50 calories left. Let's see what I can do with this. And then I would find something to eat that was worth 50 calories, even though I was not hungry at all. You kind of get what I say. It's some sort of like, I think it's called food focus. It's like you have that number in your head. I'm like, oh, I didn't maximize the day. I can still get a little bit more out of it.
Yeah, and the possibilities with 50 calories are endless. You can do 0.8 of a date. You can do 0.9 of a Ferrero Rocher.
Ferrero Rocher. A quarter of a croissant,
A quarter of a croissant. Anything that's croissant. Like... French people have so many options. Yeah. A third of a glass of red wine. Yeah. Okay. What were your biggest takeaways coaching people from last year? Biggest lessons learned?
Oh, that people have lives.
That was the lesson that you quickly had to learn in the first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That people don't sign up as full-time bodybuilders. Arsia was so angry back then. I'll let you tell.
Yeah, okay, exactly. I remember I was such a perfectionist at the time because I would take myself as an example. And back then, especially since we did our first diet and I was basically on it for 6 weeks or something. I mean, it was pretty short, but even though I had social stuff, et cetera, I was basically able to stay on it. I never got a meal out. I never went over my calories. I never did anything that would sabotage the cut or something like that or slow down progress. So I basically expected that of my first few clients that I got. But then I realized, these are people with actual jobs, that are busy, that do have like social things they have to tend to, that do enjoy a drink from time to time. And yeah, I realized that it's not about having the perfect diet or having the perfect training program like I would like to have for myself or something like that, just because I can invest the time for that. It's about being able to fit around the person's structure and to be able to allow them to get at least something done throughout the day and changing their habits slowly and over time. Because the biggest difference between someone like me going into a diet and someone that's new to nutrition, new to sports or fitness going into the diet is that I already know what to do. I already know what type of habits I need to install. I know what works to be able to lose body fat efficiently for myself. But these people kind of like get into it, for the first time of their lives. So you have to make it as easy as a transition for them as possible. It's not about changing their whole structure around them. It's about adding to their structure, adding new healthier habits, adding new ways to like think about food and construction a healthy meal. It's basically about adapting around them in a way that will allow them to lose body fat instead of forcing them to adapt to what you're used to. And I think that was like the biggest thing that I learned this year is that, yeah, no one is really perfect and you can't really expect that out of someone. You can't expect them to try their best given their circumstance. And that it's not about having the perfect diet. It's about having the diet that you'll be able to stick to. And it's the same with training as well, cardio, habits, healthy habits and stuff like that. It's about doing something that you enjoy and that you'll be able to stick to over time. Because everyone can cut for like 10 weeks and then they can just gain it right back after, right? Anyone can do a diet, but it's about being able to sustain it. And how do you do that? It's about not changing your structure too much, but changing it enough so that you're able to install these healthy habits and patterns that it gets ingrained into your day-to-day life and that you're able to stick to it for longer. If that makes sense.
Like you said, it's not about the perfect diet, but the perfect diet is the one that you can stick with for a longer time. And like I always say, you said the same exact thing. It's like, you would be in shape if you ate chicken and broccoli 4 times a day, but you would also be miserable. So instead of just forcing that on yourself for a longer period of time, but then inevitably failing eventually, it's about how can you change your diet little enough that you can still stick with it, but enough that it starts producing a change. Yeah. Any other
Yeah, and
takeaways from
most of
last
the
year?
time, just to add on to what you said, and most of the time, it's such small things that people change in their diet that makes a huge difference. Like cooking oils, added fats, not really controlling carbs, and just installing healthier habits. Like instead of grabbing a whole chocolate bar for a snack, maybe grab a fruit or something like that, something a little bit healthier, a little bit less calories that'll fill you up for longer. And also, like you're not going to be dieting for your whole life. Okay, it's only a phase. Also telling people that the diet is just a phase and that the food will always still be there after. That chocolate bar, you'll be able to buy it in 12 months, in 3 months, or right now. It'll always be there. So yeah, basically reminding people of the end goal is also something that's pretty important. Uh, and yeah, just to go back on what I was saying, a lot of the times, most of my clients still basically eat the same things they were eating before, but they make small changes here and there that just make it so much less calories that they basically don't really see a difference. There's slightly a difference, right? But the difference between their diet foods and the foods they ate before is that the foods they ate before, I mean, they're not good enough for the calories they were, right? Relative to the lower calorie version that they made themselves. And like, it's not that much of a difference for it to be worth it eating the higher calorie option, if that makes sense.
So I had this client that lost 10 kilos with me. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of mean to him. And he took some time off and he signed back up because we never finished it. I think he needed to lose like 15 kilos in total. We lost 10. He took like half a year off. He came back. He was like, well, you were kind of an asshole, David. So how about I just go with Arsia instead? I'm like, okay, cool. And eventually, he has this thing. I'm just like tearing my eyebrows out right now. He has this thing where he just refuses to not eat oil, like fish in oil, like tuna in sunflower oil or in olive oil. And it's just like basically you have a can of tuna, it's like 150 calories. You cannot have a can of tuna in olive oil, it's suddenly 400 calories. And it just makes me mad. And I tried everything to convince him not to. And then now, Arsia has managed to figure out a way to get him leaner, and now he's like making crazy progress. What was the trick?
I think it's a combination of a few things. I think just like you've always taught me, trying to repeat the same thing, but in a different way, which evidently is not the same thing, but the same idea, different ways, and seeing which one kind of sticks to it. Yeah, I mean, sometimes the brain just doesn't. And yeah, basically just trying to repeat the same things to him. And I think one of the biggest thing with this particular client was just reminding him.
Okay, let's clarify a little bit because you said repeat the same thing again. Like putting the same concept in different ways for people until it sticks. And this applies to both some concepts in and around nutrition or hitting a goal or in the gym as well when it comes to cueing certain things. So it's not repeating the same thing. It's about finding a different way of saying a similar thing until it clicks.
Yeah, exactly that. So that's something you taught me. And it's a very valuable lesson. But I think what really worked with this particular client was repeating to him because, yeah, like you said, this client is quite a big fan of added fats and doesn't seem to think that's a problem. So it's just keeping to repeat that, basically telling him, is it really not worth getting to your goal by swapping a few things here and there that you barely noticed, or just like portion controlling a little bit more just to get to your goal? Because whenever this client is on his diet, they drop weight very well. They get a great progress, a lot of weekly weight loss in terms per week or percentage per week. But it's always like the little things here and there, like the ice cream, the tuna in oil, sardines in oil, stuff like that. The extra chocolate bar he shouldn't have had. And that basically happened every night for 2 or 3 weeks, even when he first started with me. Then at some point, something clicked. And I don't know if it was because I kept saying the same thing over and over again in a slightly different way, but it just kind of clicked that if he actually wants to get to his goal that he's been trying to get to for over a year, he's going to have to make a little bit of a change and not fall into those same habits of, I don't know, grabbing something fatty anytime he was hungry. Because he didn't really have an issue with carbs or anything. Not too much. It was mostly, I mean, obviously it's that combination of fats and carbs, right, that makes everything so delicious, like chocolate, ice cream, pastries,
Salt,
and
fat,
stuff
sugar.
like that. Yep, the triangle d'or. But
Beautiful.
thank you. Sorry, merci. Also, one big thing that I noticed, I mean, this sounds super stupid that we didn't do this before, or that I didn't remind him before, but I kept trying to tell him, just pick up a piece of fruit whenever you're starting to feel snacky. Instead of picking up dark chocolate, even if it was dark chocolate, which is somewhat healthy, right? He would probably eat 4 or 5 squares, which will be 250 calories, right? Or like ice cream, or like a dessert or something like that, which will have a lot of calories, or nuts, which he doesn't need added fats because he basically eats out at lunch with every meal, so he gets a lot of fat through there. And dinner, he doesn't cook himself, so there's a lot of fat through that. I would basically just tell him to pick up some fruit. That really worked well. And he was a little bit worried at first because he was like, oh, what if I eat like 5, 6, 7 fruits a day? And I'm like, that's still fine. That's still a lot better than 3, 4 fruits and then a whole bar of chocolate. It'll still be a lot less calories, a lot more fiber. It'll keep you fuller longer. You'll be more satisfied. And also one thing. So this kind of higher calorie meals are lunch and dinner. But lunch you can kind of control a little bit, and then dinner it's more so about portion control, but it'll still be a little bit higher calories because the foods are family meals cooked in a little bit of oil. There's going to be carbs, etc., etc. You can't control the leanness of the cut of the protein or stuff like that. So one of the big things we did was finding 2 meals for breakfast that were very low calorie, that worked with him, that he could rotate, that were easy for him to get. Basically for breakfast, we basically do pure protein, maybe with a little bit of veg, a little bit of fruit. Lunch would be very similar. Protein, veg, fruit, maybe a little bit of carbs, but from like a clean source. What that means is that there's no real added fats or anything like that to it, or like we try not to. And then dinner, I would basically just tell them portion control. If you're still hungry after, eat some fruit. And if you're hungry in between any meal, eat some fruit. So it was really about buffering throughout the day. So what that means is keeping a little bit of calories throughout the day, just to save up for dinner, which we know would have been the highest calorie meal. So that's basically how we did it.
And just for the listener to know, we basically got 10 kilos off in half a year, and then he had half a year off, and then now he's like probably 2 kilos down. So in total, it's like 12 kilos in just over a year, which is not the quickest progress we've ever had, but previously, prior to us, he was working with a nutritionist, and I think he lost 3 kilos in 1.5 years. So, like I said, this whole thing is about not just like following a plan blindly, but figuring out a structure, because ultimately it will always be the same thing, right? Like you need to consume fewer calories, you need to train, but like how are you going to implement that? Like for people like him, it looks like a lot more fruit, smaller meals for breakfast and lunch, and then doing basically whatever else he wants to do for dinner. And he inevitably has a lot of meals out as well. So it's always, there's no magic sort of solution except how you're going to implement the thing. So the implementation is the magic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the game is the same for everyone, right? More activity, less calories, calorie deficit, strength training to not look skinny. But it's a little bit different what that looks like for everyone. So I think it's the more I do this, the more it's more about playing the man or the person rather than the game.
Exactly.
Trying to figure out something
And
that
that's why
works out for them. Yeah.
and that's what makes it coaching and not a dictatorship.
Yeah, exactly.
What were your biggest takeaways from your own cut and getting super lean last year?
What, the one in 2024? The recent one?
Doesn't matter. What were the lessons from any of your cuts?
The first one was that it's a little bit easier with external accountability. And when you kind of put your trust into someone and you just follow the plan. That was the first one I did. And from the get-go, I remember I was thinking about it, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to become miserable by the end of this. And then I got pretty lean, and I realized that I was not miserable at all. And that was really easy and pretty easy to maintain. So I think the biggest lesson was that it's not that hard, especially when you have the right people around you. Yeah, one of the biggest things I learned throughout that was the importance of having just good people around you whenever you're trying to diet, because I couldn't imagine how difficult it would have been if I had people who didn't support me at the time. And I'm still very grateful to these people, and you're one of them, David, to have helped me out throughout. Yeah, I mean, you were my coach, but for not just the diet side and everything, but like I said, it's about the person, right? It's about helping them out, managing their worries, etc., etc. And I remember back then I wasn't the easiest from that perspective. But yeah, I think just having people around you that support you and that accept the importance of your goals to you, and I respect that as well, right? They're not telling you, oh, why can't you have just one piece of pizza or something like that? It's not going to kill you. Because it's true, that one piece of pizza within the structure of a 6-week or 10-week diet, it's not going to do anything for you, right? It's not going to ruin a day's worth. One slice of pizza is 200 calories. It's nothing, right? But it's the fact that they respect to not do that, and that they acknowledge how important this is for you, losing weight or whatever, getting the body of your dreams, or just becoming more fit is to you, that really I feel like is important. And for the second one, the one I did recently, the biggest thing I learned there was that harder does not mean better. Yeah, I learned that the very, very hard way. Not very, pretty hard way. I mean, this is, at the end of the day, this is controlled starvation, and we're the ones who decide to put us through it. So it was my own decision. But at first, I started off on about 1,200 calories. I was doing something crazy, like 20,000 steps a day or something. I did that throughout the 10th of August all the way up until the 15th of September, so about 35 days. And that was some of the most miserable days I've had in a very long time. And that was just because I was going way too hard, way too quick. I started very lean. I basically started where my cut in 2023 started, so very lean. And I thought, I'm probably only going to need a few weeks of dieting to get into really good shape. So I'll just do it hard and quick and get over it. And then I don't exactly know what happened. I mean, yeah, I think I was just pushing myself so hard that the rest of the day my body was useless. So I would wake up, go on a walk, come back, eat, go on another walk, all the way up until I got up to like 20,000 steps. But in between those, I just didn't do anything. I laid on the couch, slept, regardless of how much caffeine I would use or stuff like that. And then I basically called up David because he was kind of following me from afar, telling me that I was stupid to be doing stuff like this. And yeah, I mean, this is what I mean when I say there's also a mental part about dieting, is that especially when I diet, I get in my own head a lot. I second guess almost everything. So I didn't know whether I should just keep pushing, maybe take a little bit of a break, because I'd be like, technically, this should work. There's no reason it wouldn't work. So I convinced myself to just keep going, keep pushing harder. And then at some point, I got so miserable. I called David and I asked him to take over. And he increased my food quite a lot. And I started feeling better. I was a more joyful person.
Shockingly.
Yeah, guys, I mean, throughout those 3 weeks or 4 weeks, throughout the month where I was miserable, anyone who saw me throughout, and I was lucky, very little people saw me because it was August and everyone was out of town, but I was just miserable. I was not an enjoyable person to be around. And then we upped my food and everything was okay. Got better. Training got better. My life got better. Even fat loss got better. And I even took like steps down, although we did add in cardio, but that I was also eating a lot more food. So for that one, I think the biggest thing was just harder doesn't mean better or better fat loss or anything like that. And also external accountability and just trusting someone else to do something that you can trust, obviously, like a coach or something, takes off a lot of the stress, the mental stress or the mental games that you play with yourself when you do diet, or at least that I do when I do diet, about second guessing any decision I'd make or just, making the wrong decisions. So I think those are the two most important things I learned on that diet.
And if someone's thinking, oh, but you're a coach, you should know what you're doing. It's literally the opposite. Like, coaches have enough knowledge to be able to sabotage on a higher level. So that's why Arsia had me. That's why I right now have Arsia to check in with every week. And when I was doing every cut previously in my life as well, I always signed up with someone in order to, one, not have these games played with myself, as well as to learn a little bit more. And then circling back to what you said about having supportive people around you, I always say that dieting is already hard enough without people around you sort of sabotaging you as well. Like, your mind will play enough games on you. There will be temptations anyway, so you don't need that from others as well. And exactly like Arsia said as well, it's not like you cannot have a slice of pizza, but if my goal is to make the quickest progress, like it is always for us, and every time we diet, it's just a more extreme version. We're more dialed in, we're doing it quicker, we're doing it more pain-free until a point, and then we always get leaner as well every single time we diet. So if my goal is not to have a slice of pizza and make the quickest progress of my life, then, as he said, we just want support in that, right? And that should be the same for everyone. We have a game called 3x3. 3 dream dinner guests. If you could invite 3 people to ever have lived for dinner with yourself, and you cannot say me 3 times, who would they be and why?
I'm just imagining 3 Davids at dinner. No one would talk.
Rough. Everyone just hating the others.
Yeah. Oh my god. 3 dream dinner guests? Maybe Mike Tyson for one.
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe Kennedy.
JF?
Yeah, not the new one. The one in the 60s. New one's kind of a tool. I mean, he's jacked, but apart from that,
I will refrain from political commentary.
I was talking about the war he's waging against Kellogg's, man. I want my Cocoa Puffs. And then some astrophysician. I don't know if Neil deGrasse Tyson is one, but I definitely do know Brian Cox is. And just because space is just fascinating. And having someone explain to you very difficult concepts easily and help you understand it is just a really nice way to learn. And I feel like something like that I could listen to someone speak about for hours and hours and would likely never get bored. So, yeah, that would be my top 3 maybe.
Why Tyson and JFK?
JFK, because I'm extremely, extremely interested in that period of history, the Cold War, the Vietnam War, and also like the Cuban Missile Crisis. Uh, what happened throughout that, the decision making he had to make. Also, I want to know what happened with Marilyn Monroe. I'm kidding. That's probably not one of the things I'd ask about. But yeah, all that stuff, the Cold War, found it really, really interesting. And also, he's just a president that a lot of people liked. One of the better president that they've had, I think. Yeah. So I think I'd like to speak to him.
Why Tyson?
Tyson, I mean, that guy was just. What I admired about him is his discipline in his earlier years. I mean, he was an animal. I mean, people would get in the ring with him and fear for their lives, and for good reason. He would knock you out within 10 minutes. I remember this one story. Not story, it's a fact. My dad told me. He used to wake up at like 4 a.m. to watch a Tyson fight. He'd wake up with his friends. They'd turn the TV on. The fight would start. It would last 10 seconds, and then they would go back to sleep. And it was worth it. And I think just like the mentality of a guy like that, I mean, he did not care. He was a warrior in the ring. And then to go through what he went through, going to prison, coming back, still being really, really good, then starting to lose, starting to fall down a little bit, going through a really rough time, going broke. And then now, what he's been able to turn himself into, seemingly a pretty peaceful guy, someone who's pretty happy with who he is, a lot more secure of a person. Just like the character growth of a guy like that would be just interesting to talk to him about that. Just to see where his mind was at throughout these different times of his life, would be interesting to see. And also, I kind of like the lisp.
That would be quite a dinner table. 3 bucket list items and why?
Okay, drive a race car or a race bike on a track, and not just drive it, but actually be good. Then wingsuit flying, definitely.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. And then I don't know if this is a bucket list item, but I just would like to be able to ski down anything. So just be an extremely, extremely good
Okay.
skier. I'm already pretty good, but there's still some stuff that gives me a little bit of trouble. So I just want to be able to go down any mountain with like no trouble at all, or like not be limited by my skill in skiing.
Alive.
Uh, yeah, just make it down alive. Yeah, obviously, because anyone can make it down technically.
3 favorite things about yourself.
I like to think that I'm pretty reliable. Something I quite like.
Very.
If someone calls me, I will likely answer. Someone texts me, I will likely get back to them. If someone asks for something, if I think it's not stupid, I'll probably do it. Uh, I usually have good intentions for others as well. I like to see the positive in people, which could be a fault as well. And yeah, if I like someone, there's very little I wouldn't do for them. So yeah, I think I have good
Which can also be a
intentions.
fault, by the way, but yeah.
Yeah, as well. And then second of all, I'm a pretty easygoing person. I get along with a lot of people, and I think that just makes life a little bit easier. So I kind of like that as well. It's funny how all of these have something to do with other people and like how I
Yep.
interact with other
That's
people.
the obliger in you.
Yeah, fuck. Jeez.
In case listeners don't know, there's this matrix of, it's called the 4 tendencies, I think, and the two axes are whether you're motivated by someone else, yes or no, and whether you're motivated by yourself, yes or no. And then if you're yes to both, you're an upholder. If you're yes motivated by others but not motivated by yourself, you're an obliger. No and no is a rebel, and yes by yourself, no by others is a questioner. So yeah, Arsia is definitely an obliger.
Mm-hmm. And you, what were you again?
I'm a questioner, obviously. Like, I don't care what anyone thinks until I agree with it. I don't do it. Unbearable personality. Rapid fire questions. A book everyone should read.
Okay. Perfume by Patrick Siskin. It's basically a book about. Should I explain what the book is?
Yeah, go for it. It was very trendy like 10 years ago, actually.
Really? Okay. Well, it's
Yeah,
just a really
it's an
good
old
book.
book, but it had its renaissance like 15 years ago.
I guess I was a little bit late to the party. I think I first read it in 2021 or something. But nevertheless, it's just a really good book. I mean, it was the first book that I read truly for myself, because all the way up until then I read books for school, and I kind of hated the fact that I had to read books for school. So I never really enjoyed them. I kind of took them as a task. But this is the first book I kind of read upon myself, uh, and it's just the way he described the guy's smell and how the book was written. I mean, the character is super relatable in certain ways, and then in another way, he's a complete alien as well. And it was just amazingly written. Uh, it was just really gripping, and it would keep you on your edge, even though you knew what was about to happen. So I think it was just a really, really good book. It's not one of those books that are like self help or motivational or anything like that that a lot of people would probably cite if you asked them this question. Because I mostly read books for entertainment, not for value. So I haven't actually read any book like that about habits or about self help or about entrepreneurship or something like that. Uh, but yeah, it's just the storytelling through the guy's nose, and how you can tell so many things through just one of your, what are they called? Senses.
Senses.
Yeah, that's just a whole story could be told through that. It could be told so well through that. It was a really interesting concept, and I just really liked it. I've read it a few times. It's the only book I've read more than once, probably.
Yeah, the descriptions in there are crazy. Descriptions of all the scents, how he describes like the girls' scents, the fragrances, and the most heartbreaking of all for me is that when I first went to Paris because of that book, I expected that they still have like residential houses on bridges, and then it turns out Paris has like the lamest bridges ever. Like it's every bridge is so simple, heartbreaking.
It's not true. Have you looked at them?
Yeah, they're shit. I'm sorry, but they're shit.
No. No, there's
It's
a
just
lot
a
of
basic
detail.
straight bridge, no decoration. Have you ever seen like, okay, I'm not a huge fan of Hungary or Budapest, but have you ever seen Hungarian bridges? They're nice. Versus every bridge looking the same in Paris. It's genuinely heartbreaking. Anyway, favorite exercise in the gym?
Wide grip lat pull down.
Okay.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Next.
No, no, no. It's a joke. Joke. It's actually one of my least favorite exercises. But this is going to surprise you. Maybe the Cybex squat press. So you know the leg press, like where the kind of plate moves with you.
Yeah, so where you put 5 plates on one side and one on the other and only film the side that has 5 plates on?
Shut up. There was 4 on one side and 5 on the other. How am I supposed to divide? I wasn't going to put 12 and a half on each side. Come on. No, but that piece of equipment is just amazing. I don't know why. Every time I see it, I kind of want to do it. Yeah, that's basically probably it. That's my favorite, I think.
Well, you changed your answer from something that I hated to another thing that I hated. A habit
Why
you're
do you
proud of
hate? Hold
being
on.
consistent with.
We'll get back to this. Cardio every morning.
Nice. A thing under $100 that you cannot live without.
Mouth tape. Definitely.
Oh, nice. So I
Yeah.
was doing one with Alex yesterday, a podcast, and he actually said the same thing I would have said if someone asked me, and that's the Lumi lamp. But mouth tape is
Yeah.
a great one.
Yeah, the Lumi Light is great. I mean, I have one right here. They're awesome, and I use it every morning. But I notice more of a difference in my sleep when I mouth tape than I notice a difference in my like day to day when I use the Lumi lamp. If I don't mouth tape, it just gets worse. I snore a lot. I mean, a lot of people confirm that. It's super loud, very disturbing. But as soon as I put my mouth tape on, it gets better. I don't snore. I sleep super well. And yeah, and a lot of people don't like it because they're afraid of not being able to breathe. But that has never happened to me ever. Even like right now, I'm sick. My nose is a little bit blocked, and I still use the mouth tape, and I still have no issues breathing throughout the day. But yeah, mouth taping is just awesome.
You're funny. You sound like this massive player. You're like, yeah, a bunch of people can confirm that I snore.
Mostly my friends.
Favorite quote?
The world is a comedy to those who think, and a tragedy to those who feel.
Whoa. This is a very unexpected one. Never heard it. I'm not sure I agree with it. Okay, next. A pivotal life-defining moment.
Meeting you, honestly.
Thanks. Same. Do you want to tell
Yeah.
how we met, or should I?
No, let's see. Let's hear you say it. I haven't heard you say it in a little bit of in a while. It's always I'm the one telling the story.
So
See
I'm
if
like
you
super
remember.
antisocial. That's why he was like, I can imagine three Davids sitting at a table and nobody talking to each other because I'm not very social. But then there was this guy in the gym, and he looked like he made sense, but he was so grumpy. Like I don't know. It's like I have this like built-in desire for rejection in me, where I just like seek out people with resting bitch faces, and Arsia is definitely one of them. So so I was like, I think I asked him about his straps because I couldn't get the Versa grips anymore. And I asked him where he got them from. But really, I just wanted to talk to him because he made a lot of sense with his training. So after like a few occasions after that, we said hi and whatnot. And I was like, okay, so who is your coach? Because he was making so much sense in his training and he looked so young. I'm like, he must be coached by someone and the coach must be good enough that he's doing things that make sense. And he was like, oh, nobody. I'm just doing things by myself. And I was like mind blown. And then from there, we got into a friendship. We talked about training, just like mechanics in general. And then eventually, I was like, I got to this point where I couldn't take anyone on anymore in the business. I was just way overloaded. And if I took anyone on, my service quality would have dropped. And I decided to hire someone, but it's hard to find the right candidate, right? Someone that's like knowledgeable enough but open-minded enough and not like set in their own ways and a little bit of too much ego. So just for fun, I was like, but I knew that he was studying finance and everything, I mean economics. I was like, hey, do you want to work for me? And he was like, yep. And we were both kind of like half joking. And then it just happened. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, I mean, why not? Why wouldn't I do it? It's fun. It's something I love.
I could say a few things
And
why not, but I'm not going to convince you. So I think this is good for
yeah,
us now.
I know that at first, even in the past few months, it took me a while to become less stubborn in my ways. Especially, I think, as I learned something, and then you would kind of like contradict me on it or something. It took me quite a while. Like I was doing it all the way up until last year, like mid 2024, towards the end of it, like October, even 4 months ago. I would still be kind of like very stubborn in what I learned or in my ways. And I think that's really what made a difference between you and I. Because I kind of went into it thinking we were in like in a friendship type of way. But then at some point you told me something. I think it was when we were doing our training sessions together, October or August or September or something like that. We were training together, and since I was dieting, I always wanted to do my program because for some reason I put myself as like a higher priority than whatever your program was, just because I was dieting, etc., etc. And then at some point you told me that these are not just training sessions and that I should be learning from whatever we were doing. And that's kind of when it clicked I'm like, yeah, I have this incredible resource. I'm not really taking full advantage of it. And it's kind of at that point that the switch flipped, and that I realized that I got to be a little bit more accepting of what other people say, especially you, because you make a lot of sense uh, sometimes.
Hope
And
so.
yeah,
No, we're both very, very, very stubborn people. Favorite cuisine?
favorite cuisine, my grandma's or my mom's, so Iranian.
Yeah, my favorite cuisine
Like,
is your mom's cooking.
the date rice. Hey,
Yeah.
if you do come to Lisbon in like March, you already know what's coming.
Yeah, yeah, I'm going.
Okay, deal.
A day in your life 5 years from now when you and I live together in the US happily married.
Boom, easy. Wake up, multi-million-dollar penthouse view on Central Park. I have a sports bike. I drive to the private gym that we own. We train only our favorite clients out of it. Come back home.
This should be a
Boom.
warning sign to all our clients. If you haven't worked your way up to being our favorites, you're out in 5 years.
Exactly. And just, yeah, live the life throughout there. Do what you love. I get to have my motorcycle. Don't tell my mom, please. She will kill me. Uh, and yeah, just doing what I'm already doing now, but at a higher level in a different area and in person as well, and be able to afford all the hobbies I do enjoy and love.
Which are
It honestly, guitar, driving cars, and motorcycles in the future. What else do I like? I like traveling too. So allowing myself to do that as well. Yeah, basically that. Luckily, they're not. I mean, they are pretty expensive. Two of them are pretty expensive as hobbies. Three of them, traveling's pretty expensive. But work my way up to that. Just being the best in the industry, and then living around the people I like, being able to do what I like on a day-to-day basis. I don't honestly really know, but regardless of where I end up in 5 years, as long as I'm happy and I don't live with any regrets, I think that's kind of like the best position I could be in. And obviously, that means in a penthouse Central Park with you,
sounds like a
having
plan.
your own private gym with a Cybex squat
Okay.
press.
Oh, we put it in the garden or something.
Yeah.
Last one. A thought constantly on your mind nowadays, other than Mexican girls.
Sorry, can you repeat that? I was thinking of Mexican girls.
Me-
This one's a little bit of a downer, but something that you told me is I'm a little bit harsh on
wow,
myself.
downer, and I told you, crazy.
No, but it was a nice thing that you told me
Oh, weird.
because yeah, maybe the only reason why I remember it is because they're so few and far out, right? Uh, I think it's this one because I'm a little bit harsh on myself from time to time, and you once told me that. Actually, you sent me a reel, but I got the message. You don't realize you're improving because you keep raising the bar higher. So, yeah, I think that's something that's on my mind quite a lot nowadays.
Why is that a downer? That's a good thing.
I know, but it also means that you're not. The fact that I realize that I have to remind myself of something like this means that it's not something that's in my subconscious. In my
Hmm.
subconscious, I'm probably like, oh, this is not good enough. You can do better. But then I think about that, and I have to basically bring it to light or be more aware of it. I feel like I'm not aware of it enough, so that's why I have to kind of like try to constantly think about it throughout the day or try to remind myself of it throughout the day. That's it.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. That was Arsia Philippin. Arsia Philippin, as he calls himself. Thank you very much.
10 out of 10. Thank you. Bye, David.